Aloha, everybody, and welcome to Coffee with Coach. This is Jeff Reinebold, and we are back again to bring you another edition, our Thanksgiving weekend edition of Coffee with Coach. Mike, come on out here. There he is, the magic one, magical Mike. How you doing, my friend?
Happy Thanksgiving, Jeff, and also happy birthday. It's your birthday since we were last on, so happy
Yeah,
birthday.
I've had so many of them. It's just they all run together, my man. Somebody asked me the other day how old I was, and I said I don't know. I was too young when I was born to remember. So, Fred Flunk he's always in. He gives
It's a
us a
hard
big
night
one.
for Fred last night, Jeff. It was a
Yeah, boy, I
difficult
tell
night.
you what, we're going to talk about a question that Fred brought to me on Twitter, which I thought was a great question and really worth diving into a little bit. What have you been doing with your time during this Thanksgiving weekend? How much football have you watched?
Oh man, I'm gonna be open and honest. Hi Owen, by the way. I fell asleep last night at midway through the second quarter of the Bills Saints game. I just my body couldn't take it anymore. I think that what didn't help, like look, it was fantastic to have football on the Thursday night for us. That Lions Bears game was purgatory. One could say it was. It was probably the closest thing. I'm only joking. I love the Cowboys Raiders game. You know, as a neutral, especially going into the end of the fourth quarter, Thursday night, you're sitting there relaxing, going to overtime. It was just a great game, but I'm looking. I'm already looking forward to Sunday's games now, Jeff. You know, you got a few great games, and there's Fred saying that he fell asleep at 12:30 a.m. But the Zebras were awful in the Dallas game. I don't know, man. Don't know.
Well, you know what? I watched the Bears because I had to do a piece for Sky as part of the broadcast, a remote. But I watched the Bears Lions game, and a couple of things were really evident to me. Number one, the Bears front seven is still an elite bunch. Now they don't have Khalil Mack, but they're still an elite bunch. Robert Quinn is having a great season. They're big and strong inside. Their linebackers can run. Their secondary is a little bit suspect, but on the other side of the ball, the Bears, you know, Andy Dalton is just good enough to beat teams like the Lions and some of these other teams. I don't know, obviously he's not the long-term solution there, and but that it's painful a little bit to watch. Mooney's going to be a good player, and I think Kyle Kmet's going to be a good player, but that offensive line still needs a lot of work, and the running game was just non-existent for the Lions. Boy, oh boy, a lot of work to do. That offensive line of theirs, I don't know how many holding calls they had, but they had way too many. And when they lost their good back, it was tough on them. Just not a lot of weapons on that football team.
We'll go back into that in a minute because we've got our first guest on. I'll just say this first off, Jeff. You were missed last night on TV. The cutting of the turkey.
Oh, man.
I missed it, man. It was a great show. Obviously, Dante Hall was on and stuff, but yeah, definitely you were definitely missed last night, man.
Well, I miss being over there, but you know what? We got business to take care of yet. We're in playoff mode, so we're going to spend some time talking about the CFL playoffs with our next guest, who
yes, sir,
is a guy that is now working in the UK, but hails from the great city of Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, the defending Grey Cup champions. Anthony Wooten, welcome with us. Good to have you here.
This is the joys of live streaming. I think Anthony's on mute. You may be on mute, or if it's your audio, come back in, Anthony. This is I love Jeff. I love doing this live. People listening to the podcast will be like, "What is going on here?"
Well, we'd like to have Anthony's voice if we can get it.
Anthony, go out and come straight back in again and see if it works. But I'm here. I'll hit the button. Don't worry. It's all good. Yeah, I feel bad for him because it's live. And look, this happened. This happened to us last week on a different show. Here he is again. Let's see it. Can we hear it? Let's see. Does it work? No, it's not working. It's not working. Now, I will message you right now and tell you how to get it working. Okay, 2 seconds. I'll somehow try and speak to Jeff here and see if it works. If I love doing this live. Seriously. Like, honestly, man, this is fun. Who's your second guest tonight? Just we're waiting on because you've got a big guest.
Our second guest is a big time guy. He's a member of the University of Georgia Football Hall of Fame. He is a member of the Canadian Football League Hall of Fame. He was an All-American linebacker at the University of Georgia. He was one of the original Junkyard Dogs. He is a member of the Florida versus Georgia, which is called the biggest outdoor cocktail party in the world every year. He's a part of that Hall of Fame. He is a really, really interesting guy and a friend of mine. Ben Zambiazzi will be on the show, and I know you're going to love hearing Ben talk about his days at Georgia and getting drafted by the Chicago Bears and, having a career in Canada, Hall of Fame career in Canada, and now what he's doing as a retiree up here in the Great White North.
Hoping to get Anthony on in a minute or so. Appreciate Anthony's patience getting them on. I can't wait to hear about the CFL. You got a game on Sunday, Jeff.
Yeah, we do. We're in full playoff mode. It's elimination football, as the playoffs always are. So everything's more intense. The preparation's more intense. All of it. But again, we've got Montreal in our stadium. It's going to be. They're calling for. Check this out, Michael. They are calling for weather of minus degrees, right? As cold as minus 20, snow, right?
Degrees Celsius.
Yeah. Now, again, think about that. That's what it's going to feel. That's what it's supposed to feel like. So it will be bitterly cold and snow. The one thing is, if it's that cold, I can't see how we're going to have much snow. But the wind is the biggest thing, and the wind's supposed to come out of the northeast, which is right off the lake. So it will be a factor, a huge factor in the game. And it's going to be a sold out crowd, and it's going to be a great environment, regardless of how cold it is.
6 p.m. Sunday. I know I'll be watching that with the NFL, Jeff. I wish you all the very, very best. Before we bring Anthony, I'm going to check him out right now. He's coming in and out. He's putting on different earphones. Hopefully that'll work. We'll get Anthony in 2 seconds. If you are watching this, if you comment on YouTube or Facebook, just search Coffee with Coach Reinebold. It can go up on the screen, and I'll try and read some other ones out as well.
If you get it up on the screen, we'll address it.
Let's see what happens. Hopefully Anthony's works. I'm praying to God this works. Anthony, can you hear me? Can I hear you?
I can hear you. You sound like chipmunks. God. Can you hear me?
No, you're good. You sound wonderful.
You can't hear me. Oh, you can hear me.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
We can hear you perfect. All good.
All right. You sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks with my headset, but we can roll with this. Jeff, I heard you talking about the wind chill. You know what? That is, I don't think guys over here really appreciate just how harsh that wind chill can be, man. I've got this trophy here. I think I showed it last time I was on with you. We won that back in '88, Pop Warner, Pee Wee champions in Winnipeg, and we played it in November. It was freezing cold. Remember the coach is just telling you, put your hands in the warm parts of your body. You know where that is, down around your crotch or underneath your armpits. And we just had to make do. I can't remember what the score was, but I just remember the victory.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's going to be that kind of weekend all over Canada this weekend. We've got games. You've got the Eastern semifinal here in Tim Hortons Field in Hamilton. It's supposed to be snow and very cold, bitterly cold. Then in Regina, Saskatchewan, Calgary and Saskatchewan will do battle. And Saskatchewan this time of year. I'll tell you a story, Anthony. We played in the Grey Cup in Saskatchewan in 2013. What would have been a week previous to this, right? Would have been the third week in November. We went out to practice, and we lost 2 players due to frostbite. So you can imagine what it's like. So but that's Canada. That's Canadian football, and the weather and the wind and all of those things factor in. You will see. I promise viewers, if you watch the game, you will see things that you cannot believe actually happened with the ball and the kicking game and all of it. So it'll be exciting.
It's fantastic. It's on BT Sport ESPN for those of you who want to give it a watch. I know we got the NFL on Sky Sports, but you got 2 exciting playoff games this weekend. And you got the Rouge. It's all go. And you know what? You tune in to CFL football and it's over like that. You've got 12 on 12, but I mean, the scenes are just fantastic. I remember the Grey Cup. You were there, Jeff. I'm sorry to bring it back, but when the Bombers won it a couple of years ago over in Calgary, and it was cold there as well. And the weather can fluctuate in Calgary because if you get the Chinooks coming in, then you've got the warm weather like we saw in the Winter Olympics in '88. But CFL football, baby.
I think it's going to be really interesting because they're both semifinal games are going to be great games. Montreal features a running back. This stand back kid they got is really, really a good football player. He's big, strong back. Had led the league in rushing in 2019. Went back down to the NFL. Went to the Raiders. Came back. He was playing extremely well. He's a real high level player. And then we have played great defense, and Jeremiah Mazzoli, our quarterbacks, played much better the second half of the season. Dane Evans, a backup, gives us kind of a 1-2 punch at quarterback. Then you go over to the Western semifinal, and Saskatchewan came into our place at 9-4 the last weekend of the season. They're a very good football team. They are really talented football team. They're at home in a tough place to play. Mosaic Stadium's a tough place to play. But Calgary is one of those teams that winning is in their DNA. So I expect that both games are going to go right down to the last possession of the game.
Yeah, like you say, Calgary, they're almost like the New England Patriots, aren't they, in the CFL, whereas they're there or thereabouts. If they're not winning it, they're always in with the shout. You never know. You can never bet against Calgary. But then, the West, they got to go into Winnipeg, man. And then they all head to Hamilton for the Grey Cup. My brother's going to be there at the weekend.
Well,
He's just moved from Hamilton down to Oakville. But
you be sure to tell him to look me up. And hey, let me tell you, as a Bomber fan, I got to ask you this. They made the decision to not play Zach Collaros in what would have been their 13th game. They were 11-1 at that time, and they went into Montreal and got beat, and then played Zach very sparingly in the last game of the year, right? So they've struggled a little bit down the end. That's the age-old dilemma that all coaches go through when you clinch the playoffs early. How much do you play your players? How much do you rest them? How much do you expose them to injury? What's your take on that?
Man, watching it, they've been so dominant throughout the season, and they've had the X marked next to their name for Lord knows how long now, and so they've had the playoff, and they've had the bye booked, and you look at it and you think, okay, it does give you a chance to kind of just take stock, maybe give some guys some experience and rest some guys. My caution's been, especially over the run over the last couple of games where they've gone LL, is football's also about momentum, isn't it? Both sides of the border. And if you're losing games, it's not good. And you don't want to develop that habit of losing. Now, look, they're not going to go into the conference final next week with a mentality of losing. But they've taken away that air of invincibility about them, and they've been so dominant throughout the season. So I get it in one standpoint that they're resting some of their star players, and they're going to be fresh. They're going to head into the bye, they can recuperate, and then they can come out the bye. But the only issue there as well is that they come out the bye, they've had a couple of defeats. How fresh, or how, I guess, how they're not going to be game ready in that regards, but they're professional athletes, so you would trust them, and they're so well prepared. But I'd rather them have gone into the bye full strength, and okay, you go into those games, they could play some part in those games, and then if you're having a dominant performance going into the final quarter, then pull the guys out, rest them. But I'd rather they would have continued that momentum, just because, like I said, it's that air of invincibility, and they've been so superior throughout the season. Whereas now teams can look at them and go, well, actually, we could take them.
Well, I think it's going to be interesting, no question, because again, playoff football is such a completely different animal than regular season football. You grew up a Winnipegger, you grew up a Bombers fan. Try and explain to you again. As you know, Anthony, we've got viewers and listeners all the way from, Japan and Hawaii, all the way to Russia and every spot in between. But that beautiful new stadium that they have in Winnipeg, when they have the Western Final, 60 minutes from the championship, 60 minutes from a trip to the Grey Cup. Talk about what that environment in the stadium is like.
Oh my goodness. Like, listen, bit of context. Winnipeg, it's pretty much in the middle of nowhere, isn't it? It is an oasis in a field of wheat and lakes. At this time of year, it's freezing. It's dark. People, they don't get out as much, but you get, and it's a population. It's probably grown now to about 750,000 people. So it's a city. It's not a huge city. Two main things in Winnipeg: hockey and their CFL football. Now, their hockey, they've got a great NHL team in the Winnipeg Jets who have been consistent performers in the NHL, getting to the playoffs the last few seasons. They even got to the Western Conference Finals a couple of seasons ago and eventually lost to the Stanley Cup winners in the Las Vegas Golden Knights. Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They won the Grey Cup. They are the defending Grey Cup champions. They won it in 2019. It has been a long time. It was a long time before then since they had any success on the football field. Now, this city is a passionate city. Like I said, Manitoba is a huge state. Bit of context. Manitoba, you could fit France in Manitoba twice and Great Britain. That is how big it is. And you've got this main city right down in the south of Manitoba. So it's not just Winnipeg football, it's Manitoba football. You got Portage-la-Prairie, you got Brandon, you've got all the surrounding areas. You know, this time of year, you get the conference final coming into a city of 750,000 people. And it's a beautiful city, but let's say, you know, London. London has got, it's a metropolitan city. It's got so much going for it and so much in the surrounding areas. Winnipeg, it's got a lot going for it, but it's not the biggest city. So football is, it's not the be all and end all, but it is such, it's a huge sport. It's a huge part of what that city is. So when you get the conference final coming in and you've got Western Conference rivals in your Western Division coming in, be it Calgary or Saskatchewan. And Saskatchewan, look, they've got their own game called the Banjo Bowl between the two. You know, there's this intense rivalry between the two. And they've got it on home turf. That place, I guarantee you, is going to be rocking. You talk about Lambeau and the fanatics, the fans that are there, and how that stadium bounces and buzzes. That is a small city where football is its lifeblood. In Winnipeg, football and hockey is its lifeblood, and it's a city not that much bigger, really. Well, I guess, you know, it is quite bigger than Green Bay, but a freezing cold winter. You know, the fans, they've got something to cheer about, and they got football. It's going to be absolutely buzzing. I guarantee you that. And you know that, Jeff. You know what it's like.
I've been here on both sides of that coin. So, hey, get us updated with what you've been doing since we talked to you last.
Well, man, yeah. Look, the Transatlantic Sports Show, the podcast, is going from strength to strength. Just recorded an interview today with a Rams analyst. We're taking a look at the Rams coming out of the bye week. But, dude, I was all over the London games, covering those. You guys may have heard it around the world. Some of the stuff I did on BBC World Service. Also worked for the company Stats Perform. So we cover a lot of NFL. So, for example, this week we dive into the data analytics, and we tell the story around some of the key games using some of the best data around, if not the best data in football and in the world. Actually, we have Opta as part of our arm as well. This week, done a special preview, actually data preview on the Colts and Bucks. You know, focusing on Arians. We all know the success, and it was. You know, let's not forget, that was his launchpad into head coaching under unique circumstances, Bruce Arians. So we tell a bit of a story about that in our video. We hear from Tom Brady, and Frank Reich was raving about Brady, as you would expect, as a former quarterback, and, you know, just talking about the abilities and the strength of this 44-year-old quarterback's arms. And we've seen on Monday Night Football, 44-year-old hurdling over players. Interesting hearing Chris Godwin actually this week talking about that. And he's like, I can't believe this dude. He's 44 years old and he's running, and I've seen him sliding. But no, he's not sliding. He's going head first. And it's just unbelievable. So doing a lot of stuff. So just telling the story of the game that we love, man. It just working it, feeling absolutely privileged to be a part of it. hook up regularly with NFL UK as part of the NFL Writers Network. A few of the guys, Richard Graves is there, Neil Reynolds is a part of it. We get together pretty much monthly and have a chat around things around NFL UK, the NFL. We got a hookup coming up soon. We'll be looking ahead to the Super Bowl and all sorts. So, yeah, man, busy.
All right, so tell me now. One of the big things that people are talking about, one of the things people are chewing on, is the fact that it's very, very clear at this point in the season, in my mind, that there isn't a quote dominant team. There's not a team that you can say at this point in the team they're going to be in the Super Bowl, particularly in the AFC. I think the AFC is wide open. What's your take, Anthony, on the AFC?
The AFC. Well, you know what? You look at the Buffalo Bills and you look at what they did last night, and I know the New Orleans Saints is a team that they're banged up and they're going through a rough patch. And you know what? I write betting tips, and ahead of that game, and I'd seen the injuries that the Saints had, and I was quite tempted to take the under on 19 points. Wish I did, but I didn't. But you can only beat what's in front of you, right? And the Bills were dominant last night. But then you would have expected that performance against the Jags. But then they struggle and they lose 9-6 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Are they the strongest team in the AFC? You would question, you'd probably say no. But then before that, before last week, you're thinking, okay, well, the Tennessee Titans, they're cooking, they're rocking, they're beating everybody in front of them, and Derrick Henry's out. And then suddenly they lose to the Texans. And now we're looking at the New England Patriots. And we're thinking, here we go. They've got the Titans coming up. They beat the Titans. All of a sudden, they're top dogs. Just 2 weeks ago, before the Dolphins game, Thursday Night Football, I'm talking to guys in a WhatsApp group saying, it's been a while. I'm going to admit, it's been a while for me to warm to Lamar Jackson as an all-around QB. But ahead of that game, I'm messaging guys and going, you know what? Lamar is the man. He's won me over. I'm all in on Lamar Jackson. AFC team, Baltimore Ravens. Watch them go. This is their conference. This is their year. They're going all the way. And then they go and do what they did against the Miami Dolphins. Well, what's going on here? So in answer to your question, who do I think in the AFC? You know what? Bill Belichick, man. They found their groove, and I don't think we can sleep on the New England Patriots. You look at the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, and you think, well, something's going to click. And they're winning. They're getting the job done. But they're not dominant, are they? Like they have been the past 2 or 3 seasons. So they're gettable. Interesting, listening to Tom Brady this week, he was asked a question about Thanksgiving and why at Thanksgiving is it a turning point in the season? And it becomes the business end of the season. And then he was asked why last year, remember the Buccaneers, they had their bye week in week 13. So they got out of Thanksgiving. They had the bye week the following week. And then we all know what happened. They won every game right through to the Super Bowl. I remember Super Bowl week that Tom Brady had said last year, back in February, that he admitted it took him a while to get used to the playbook. Regardless of being 43 years old, he moved to a new team. And his whole career, he's been with one setup. And they didn't have a preseason, and that obviously hindered him. And he was saying his answer to the question today as to why his performances step up and why he becomes more dominant come the turn, let's call it the turn, come Thanksgiving, that final stretch, is because he says you're at a stage in the season where if you played 2 games, everything that you've been working on, you're still finding yourselves out. 8 games. You're still finding things out. Things aren't going right. Things might not be clicking. But around this point, you know what's what. And things start to click. But you have to work hard for it. And he said, at this point in the season, there are teams and players that kind of give up and like, okay, well, we've done everything we can. And it may be a case of we'll blow it all up and it's a rebuild next season. But he is of the mindset that if you don't work hard, you need to work even harder at this stage of the season to win, to be able to get yourselves into the playoffs and then keep that momentum going, because it gets even harder and harder because your body's beaten up and all that to become successful. So, in answer to your question, I think with that mindset, you've got Bill Belichick, and he's built this strong team in New England, and they're set up. They were finding themselves out the early stage of the season. They've got their rookie quarterback who was finding himself out. They are working to his not to his they're working within his means. He's got his limits. He's going to improve, he's going to get better, but they are playing to his strengths, and it's working, and we're seeing it, and they're dominating teams. So do I think the New England Patriots are going to win the Super Bowl? No. Do I think they're going to get to the AFC Championship game? They've got every chance that they can, because it is so wide open. However, I do think the Ravens and the Chiefs are going to be the teams that are up there come late January. I know it's a long-winded answer, Jeff, but just trying to put everything in context for you, man.
Well, I appreciate it, and again, it's a great take, and I think you're right on in a number of those comments that you made. It's going to be fascinating to watch it unfold, because it's maybe the most wide open race that I've seen in a long, long time. So, injuries, all that stuff's going to play a part in it. Anthony, as always, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. I appreciate it very much, you jumping on with us today, and we look forward to get together and talking ball real soon.
Go Tiger Cats, Jeff. Good luck this weekend, man. Hopefully, you know what? It's going to be a rematch in the Grey Cup in a couple of weeks' time, and who knows? Might even try and make the trip out there. See my bro. We'll hook up. But go Tiger Cats this weekend, man.
All right,
great to see
you. Thank you. Aloha. Thank you.
Aloha.
All right. Anthony Wooten, again, a real good football guy and a real good Canadian, really, living and working in the UK now, and still loves his Canadian League football.
I can attest to that. I was lucky enough to meet Anthony in London for both games. He's a great guy, great help as well. Really appreciate Anthony coming on. At AR Wooten, WOOTTON, and the Transatlantic Sports Show is at TASS_UK. Give him a follow on Twitter. And we got there in the end, Jeff. We somehow worked out the technical issues again. Are we going to go 2 for 2 in a second with our second guest? I'm not sure, but you can see there underneath, you can watch Jeffrey and the Hamilton Tiger Cats this Sunday at 6 p.m. in the CFL playoffs. Oh, it's on BT Sport, ESPN, channel 423 in Sky. I'm going to do a little double screen. I'm going to watch Jeff and one. I'm going to watch a bit of Red Zone. It's going to be good, man. It's going to be good. And do you know what? I know you got a guest coming on, but the end zone's huge.
20 yards deep. Can you imagine trying to play the fade on a 20-yard end zone?
It's unbelievable.
There's some things that fans, if you've never watched a CFL game, you really need to watch at least some of it, because it is wide open football. It's much faster than the NFL, because we only have 20 seconds between plays, not 45. The clock runs continuously until the last 3 minutes of the half. It is, the only, in terms of motion, right? In the NFL, only one guy can go in motion at a time. If more than one go in motion at a time, then they have to come set before the snap. In our league, you can have everybody except the offensive lineman running at the line of scrimmage on the snap. So there's some things about it that make it really a unique and a fun game.
I am not sure if your next guest is going to use audio or video only, but we'll find out very soon. Who knows if we're going to go 2 for 2 in technical issues, but it'll be okay, Jeff. Do you want to introduce him and we'll get him on?
Yeah, I would like you fans to meet a guy that's a great story. He's a great guy. He's a friend of mine. He is a Hall of Famer out of the University of Georgia. He played linebacker for Vince Dooley at Georgia. Was one of the original. Now, I'm not talking about phony ones. I'm talking about one of the original junkyard dogs. He was a favorite of Georgia fans, and he was drafted to the Chicago Bears, and he's one of those guys that, had he been drafted today, I think he would have had a great NFL career. He was what I would describe as a long, lean linebacker. He only weighed probably about 220 pounds when he went to the Bears. And I'll tell you this story about him with the Bears before I bring him in. Buddy Ryan told his son Rob, who used to hang around training camp, there was an inside drill going on, and that's when I say inside drill, it's inside run period. And it's all the DBs are out of there, and it's just the big guys in the backs and the linebackers. And, that can be a violent period. And Buddy called Rob over and he said, listen to that. And, Rob being a young kid said, what are you talking about, Dad? And he goes, listen to that. He goes, hear that? When Zambezi hits him, it's a different sound. And so Ben Zambiasi was known as Zambezi back in those days, but Ben Zambiasi is our guest today. Ben, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jeff. Am I here, or do I have to click on something?
We've got your audio. I don't have your video. If you can get it, you can come on. Love for the fans to be able to see you. If not,
okay. I'm trying to figure out how to come on video. Let's see here. How's this one? No, that's not happening there.
I'm gonna basically just jump in here and say it's
Sure.
the little video clip, icon. It's beside the little microphone one. So hopefully we'll get it working. Hopefully we'll see.
All right, hold on.
This is no worries. Here, this is good. Like Jeff, we can hear Ben, so it's and he can hear us, so it's all good.
Now I got
joys of the internet.
Things happen. Yeah, you screwed up. Okay. It's okay. Come on in.
Don't worry, it's all good. Jeff, you were saying there, but Ben, you think he would be drafted highly now? Yeah.
Yeah, I think when Benny came out of Georgia, the quote knock on him was that he wasn't big enough, right? He was a thinner, leaner, longer backer who could run, because Benny went to college as a running back at Georgia, and they switched him to linebacker, and he could get on the field sooner at linebacker, and he was built to be a linebacker. I mean, his personality was a linebacker's personality. But that was
my story. It's a Cinderella story. I wasn't highly recruited. The best thing that ever happened to my family was getting a scholarship out of high school, right? Getting a chance to play. And I was just fortunate enough to be in the South. My dad was military. I know this is a broadcast out in England. I even went to England at one time. We played a baseball World Series, which is a story down the road. But I lived in Europe, in Germany for 6 years. My dad being Air Force and me being, so we traveled. I've been coast to coast, and I was born in Georgia. I'm the oldest of 5, and it was quite interesting. Got my first taste of organized football in Georgia very young. Got to play a couple of years in high school. In those 2 years, we won 2 state championships in the state of Georgia at a Catholic high school in Macon, Georgia, Mount DeSales.
Hey, Benny.
Yeah.
Your father, and I know that we've talked a lot about your past, and your father, who was a military man, played his college football at the University of Detroit, and he was one of his teammates was legendary NFL head coach Ted Marchibroda, correct?
That's exactly right. That's true. I remember him telling me the story that he blocked for he was playing fullback for they don't have a football team now, but he went to the University of Detroit, and he was from Owasso, Michigan, and he was on an ROTC program. So he had it after he finished his university and got his degree. He had an obligation to the military, and his first tour was down there. But during his years at University of Detroit, when they had a team, Ted Marchibroda transferred in for like his last 2 years, and they led the nation when Marchibroda was there in passing. Ted Marchibroda at that time, when they started keeping stats, was the nation's leading passer in the nation. Why my old man was there blocking for him. So he wore number 3, and they had a jersey. I found his jersey one time, Jeff. I think I shared this with you. It was the old jock strap wrapped around, like the jersey fit into your pants, because you couldn't be sloppy. You couldn't wear your jersey. It didn't have tearaways, and it wrapped around, and they buttoned in the front. Now I act actually as a jock support, like it was. Except they found that
you didn't want anybody to pull you down by your jersey.
Yeah, you didn't want to. Yeah, that's right. You didn't. That's right.
Hey, Benny, when you in your formative football years, you actually played in Europe, did you not? When your father was
I got
stationed
to
at
play
Wiesbaden?
well 1 year after my second year in high school. My dad got transferred back, so we go back to Wiesbaden, and I play on the team there. Now, that was quite the experience. We played against other high school teams because they're all military over there, and they have high schools on the bases. When we were occupying Europe, when we had presence over there, so we played other high schools: Heidelberg, Frankfurt, Rhein-Main, and so we travel around and play over there. Yeah, so there was football, American football. The season, it wasn't as big, of course, as it is in the state of Georgia or down south, the high school, but it was still big, and it was very competitive. So I had 1 year there, and while I was there, they don't send scouts over there, Jeff. It's not like everyone's on a plane every weekend looking at high school players, right? Universities aren't sending universities aren't going over to scout for high school players over there. So, but anyway, because of the success we had at the high school, I kind of was being followed by Georgia Tech, a guy named Jerry Glanville. And he was calling my dad about once a month while we were in Germany and talking to my man. Now back then, like a 5-minute conversation would cost about $120 at that time, right? So they'd have a conversation, what was going on each week as while I was down there. So that was kind of fun. And so my senior year, I talked my dad and mom into letting me come back while they stayed in Germany. I got to go back to the high school and live with. Fortunate, I was very blessed to live with a family who happened to be the head coach, Catholic family, Coach Mike Garvin and his wife Carolyn, and their 3 young boys, 2 of which weren't even in school when I came back as a senior. One was in like 2nd or 3rd grade. One was just like pre-kindergarten. And I think one was still nursing. So it was quite the experience coming back and being a big brother and going through that whole situation my senior year. And again, we had a very successful football team at high school, and it kind of was a launch pad for me because we again won the state championship. And at that time, it was really cool being recruited. I'll just say that about that experience and going back and living that family and then getting the chance to go to University of Georgia. How about them dogs?
Hey, now, okay, so now we're going to talk a little about your time between the hedges, as they say down in Georgia, and
it was magical.
We'll talk about those dogs, and we'll talk about these dogs, the present day Georgia Bulldogs. But I want to go back to your time there because
4 years of my life. Yes, go ahead.
I know you've said to me on numerous occasions how much fun you had at Georgia, how much you enjoyed it, the great friendships you made, the great teammates you had. You played for a defensive coordinator at Georgia that was a unique human being and really could. You talk about a guy that, I wouldn't describe Irk as a player's coach per se in the way that you think of a player's coach today, but you guys deeply loved him and he deeply loved you. Isn't that not true?
Yes, it was incredible man, Coach Erskine Russell, on the defensive coordinator. Really, but actually both sides of the ball, guys that played on defense and guys that played on offense. In fact, he'd take the guys that junkyard team was made up of like 3 quarterbacks that were recruited as quarterbacks. Dickie Clark, to think of one. There was a bunch of guys on that defensive team that used to play, that were the quarterbacks were quarterback, and they decided to come play on defense.
Now,
Irk recruited them to come play defense.
You started as a running back, did you not?
They try you out because of the type of offense they were running. We were running a veer offense at the time. And they did give me an opportunity, and I was doing really well at the position at running back until I sprained an ankle. which really pissed off Coach Russell. So then, yeah. So
don't be hurting my defensive players over there.
Well, that's what happened. So when I came back, and I'd never been injured. That was my first injury ever, like any kind of major injury that I wasn't going to participate the next day in football, right? So that was kind of a bummer, and that's where I learned how valuable ice is and how much I hated it.
Benny, you know, when Irk coined that term, junkyard dogs, right?
Oh yeah,
that thing, because I remember it being a high school kid at that time, that thing took off. It took on a life of its own, and it became like an identity almost.
yes.
How did all that? What was it that you guys captured with that junkyard dog deal?
It was just a moniker. It was my sophomore year, so a lot of seniors had left. We didn't have a very good season the year before. We went to the Tangerine Bowl. It got beat by Tech, which, by the way, is a big game tomorrow at Georgia. Last game of the year. And so anyway, that coin, that we were just looking for an identity. Like we were just, somebody knew something, and we opened up with Pitt that year, Tony Dorsett and the Pittsburgh Panthers.
Well,
And from about that point on, like he came in about right at that point, right there, Junkyard Dogs, and he'd heard the song by Croce, right?
Jim Croce, yeah.
Junkyard Dogs, Jim Croce song. Leroy Brown.
Yep.
And he went to the band. From what I understand, he went to the guy that ran the band and said, I want you to do something with this. He says, I got something I want to do. So he left it with the guy that ran the university, the halftime band,
Yep.
university band. So that guy, oh yeah, he was special. So then he got these T-shirts made up. I still got them here somewhere. Yeah, Junkyard Dogs.
All right, now I want you to kind of tell the fans what it's like playing in the largest cocktail party.
Oh, that game. Well,
that game against those guys.
Well, there's a big, I can tell you, first of all, the first game you ever step on, when you go from high school to that next level, to the university level, Jeff, that one hyperventilated me. When I first got on the field and had to run off for my first plays, that one was like it was like I couldn't catch my breath. But then you go on, and then each year, your first year is a completely new experience, because every game you're gonna see these guys the next year, right? So you learn to be, like I said, you be gracious, and you learn all the stuff that you kind of learn in high school. But then you go to Florida, and it's a completely different game altogether. Like it's a neutral site, and it's just like a vibration. It's just so passionately the fans just dislike each other so much. And it just starts. It starts usually, probably nowadays, I think it starts usually on a Thursday. And it builds up to the Saturday and goes all the way now until Sunday. Even on the ride home, it's still not over.
Tell me
whoever wins, they rub the salt. Like it's an amazing. It's the wildest thing. It still is. It's an outdoor cocktail party. And back when I played, you did not have the kind of security where it doesn't allow fans on the field. When the game was over, and depending how the game went, because we had some really exciting games when I played there, like the end around Appleby to Washington Washington to Appleby. It was just, Appleby to Washington, a reverse doink play, right? That was beautiful for a touchdown. Anyway, when I left the field, before you get to the locker room, you've already had like a 6-pack of beer, or had the opportunity to drink a 6-pack of beer.
Did you get any of those $500 handshakes on your way off?
No, $50 handshakes were was not uncommon, but yeah, there were some $100 bills. Just very excited fans and very happy that they won their bets and they were sharing it with us.
Okay, Benny, then you become an All-American, right? and get drafted by the Chicago Bears.
Right.
And I told the story on your intro about how Buddy Ryan had really loved you, and because you were so physical, and even though you were kind of an undersized linebacker at that time,
I was so undersized, Jeff. It was crazy. I wasn't big enough. I wasn't fast enough. I wasn't strong enough. When they drafted me and they flew us in there, it was an embarrassment. I couldn't bench my weight. Like I couldn't bench my weight 3 times. Like I went in there at 200 pounds, 210. I could barely, 225. Okay, I could do 225, two reps. But there are guys that are in there ripping it off and saying, okay, I'm warmed up. What are we going to do next? Right? I'm looking around. I'm going, oh, shit, I've seen this before. But so anyway, I went back and I really pumped up. I got like I did. I went from like a 2. I finished Georgia like at 208, 210. So when they got me in there and I got on the scales, no, I didn't. It was crazy. So I went, okay, so I got to get stronger. I got to get bigger. So I went to camp about 218, best shape I've ever been in, worked my tail off, got in there. But, you could see it's a chess game there. And with Buddy Ryan as a coordinator, he didn't make any bones about it. You can play rookies, you can't win with them. So it was tough for me to catch all the different schemes that were trying to be done, that he tries to incorporate, and very successful. He's very successful at it. I just was not very experienced at it.
Well, it's amazing because you played in a defensive wide tackle 6 where, you can be multiple out of that and all, but when you go to play in Buddy's scheme where everything is based upon adjusted front and coverage, what if the back's here, you play this, if the back's there, you play that, against this formation, it's this, and you really have to know football. So it's really difficult for a rookie to make the team. Now, you don't make the team, and your rights are held by the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and you come up here, drive up in your BMW or Mercedes or whatever it was at the time.
From the south side of Chicago, where I had a flat tire in the middle of it was scary. I left Chicago that was a story unto itself.
Okay, so you get to Hamilton.
I get to Hamilton, and I have to do a little tryout at the time for Herb Patera. Herb Patera was the defensive coordinator, and John Payne had just become the head coach, unbeknownst to me. I didn't know what their situation was, right? So I guess they had fired the coach that the players really liked, and John Payne became the new head coach just a game before I could show up.
So now,
now they're not very good. I didn't know anything about the Canadian Football League. My first taste was the Can-Am Bowl.
Right. So when you got up here, right, and you got on the roster, and you started to play the game.
Okay, so the first game, so I do my tryout, I do my warm up. Okay, you're going to play. We play the same team that they had just finished playing the week before. And I go, and I couldn't believe that. I go, wait, you just played this team? They go, yeah, we're going to play them again at home. So that was my first game, home game against Ottawa Rough Riders. And they had just finished playing them, Tony Gabriel, the whole bit. So we played them pretty good. My first game, it was a good game, introduction game. One of the guys that I played with was a punt returner DB for Ottawa. So I got to see him. Mitchell was his last name.
Now, what did you think of the game, Ben, when you first came up here and you saw all the unlimited motion and all the crazy formations and 12
I just can't believe how this is unbelievable how good this is. Here's the biggest thing up here is the yard off the ball. People don't talk about that difference. And that's a big thing that separates NFL, like the kind of guys and kind of players up here, is that 1 yard off the ball. So when I came up here, everyone played traditionally a tight end. They didn't have the kind of motion. They had some motion, but it's really expanded over the years since I played. But what I really loved about it, Jeff, the coolest thing is we only had to stop him. You only had to stop him twice to make the guy's punt. You don't have to. Right. I don't have to stop him 3 times. I just have to stop him twice for 10 yards. Same amount of distance. You're only getting 2 cracks at it. I thought, holy shit, I love this.
Well, if there ever was a guy that was built to be a CFL linebacker, I think it was
It
you.
was meant for me to get cut by the Bears. I'm going to tell you, everything, there's a purpose. When you go from the lowest point of your life, which happened to me, that was the worst thing that ever happened. The first damn football team I ever got cut from, Jeff. It blew my mind. I'd never been cut from. What? You're cutting me? Okay, Neil Armstrong, you are a space cadet.
Fans, Neil Armstrong was, so you have a context of what Benny just said. Neil Armstrong was one of the Apollo astronauts, and he was also, that was the name of the head coach of the Chicago Bears. That cut. So you get his sense of humor. Benny, when you came into this league, and you came to Hamilton in particular, because this city and this franchise has known
You're right, Jeff.
Has known great defenses.
I couldn't have come to a better place. Buddy Ryan did me a favor. I wanted to send him a thank you note. I did get a chance to go back to the NFL. I will tell you that. Forrest Gregg offered me a lot of money to come back and play for the Cincinnati Bengals. After I'd played up here, like after my second or third year, because I kept signing 1-year contracts, because when I first came up here, Jeff, honestly, I was going to use it as a stepping stone to go back to the NFL. I was coming back up. I was coming here, hone my skills, get a little bit more knowledge. And I did get the opportunity, and I turned it down because I had signed a contract up here with Hamilton at the time. And it was a really good, and I got to tell you, came to a town that personified defense. It had a huge Italian community, which you alluded when I came up here, Zambezi was how I pronounced my name. And I pronounced it that way the first year. And then at the end of the season, I had a legal counsel for the CFLPA. His name was John Agro. And he lived here and resided in Hamilton. He approached me and said, I want to officially change your name to the official Italian pronunciation. Do you mind if we do that? And I said, no, what is it? He said, Zambiazzi. I said, okay. He said, you let me worry. I'll handle that. So he helped me. That's how my name got changed, the pronunciation of my name.
Well, you were a absolute hero to everybody in this community, and had your fans all around the country, but particularly in Hamilton with this huge Italian population that you mentioned, Stony Creek, the North End, all of that. You were like a god, and when you went from Zambezi to Zambiazzi, you were one of them. And I think, like you say, it was a perfect marriage. It was a great player in a city that loved
a perfect marriage.
Loved the way you played the game. You come into our stadium now, and up on the facade, on the home side, is Ben's name with his number 31, and he is a Hall of Famer in the Canadian Football League Hall of Fame, and again, one of the best guys I know. Really a really good person. Now, Benny, you got involved you were one of the first, and this is because it's kind of a hot thing right now. Talk about meatless athletes.
Oh yeah.
You were one of the first meatless athletes.
Well, for you maybe yes, but I wasn't. But I was. I've been a vegetarian since 1989, November of 1989 to this date, which is 32 years now, 33 years, just over half my life. I just turned 65, and I've been meat-free for 32 years. And it's been a fantastic journey, and I'm very happy that I did it. It's a nice clean type diet. It has a lot of benefits, not only personally, but environmentally and even spiritually. So
you told me, or actually you did it through my wife, Leslie, about a movie, or I guess it was a documentary
show.
Or movie, a show that I would recommend everybody watch.
Yes. It documents. Yeah, the team it's a team it's a playoff potential team, the Tennessee Titans. It's called Game Changers.
Explain that because I think it's fantastic. It's a fantastic. If you're a football fan or if you're an
Right.
athlete of any sort, it's a great show to watch.
Well, it's an info. It's like you know, a lot of people are going to get doinked when they watch it. Like Jeff, I went from eating meat, fish, chicken, eggs 4 times a day to maintain 218 pounds. Like I'm down now. My body weight when I came out of high school, I was like 190 pounds, 195. And so when I went to Georgia, I played at 205, 208. Like that was the range of my play. And back then it was like nobody was throwing the ball. It was all run. Like it was all like run. So anyway, I just changed. And I just also looked into a lot of the health factors. I'm seeing the life expectancy of professional football players, what the actuaries are. You get in financial services, you start dealing those kind of numbers and being aware of what's happening. And you know, I'm going, you get cognizant, and then you start correlating. You get a piece of information here, a piece of information there, and you go, okay, I can try anything for 30 days. And in that trial period, just, you know, a light switch goes on where you just where you have a cognizant dissonant moment and you go, whoa, this is pretty good. I was pretty ignorant.
Hey, I know one thing you are not ignorant about, and that's Georgia football. And
Oh my God.
Your
They're good.
Your
They're good
beloved
this year.
your beloved Bulldogs aren't good. They are the #1 ranked team in the United States right now.
You know why they're the best team? Because they got the best damn defense. Period. I'm not going to say nothing else. They come up and make stops when you have to make stops. And that, you know, it's not like the Ticat defense is where you bend and don't break. We're kind of like that kind of a defense. We're a little streaky, but we play really smart defense. I really like and I like our chances. I hope we're going to talk about that too. But the Bulldogs, they're special, and they're doing it with special guys too, right? They kind of have a similar quarterback situation happening too. When you look at the whole scheme that the Cats have, they got kind of happy problems.
Benny, they're going to go into the national playoffs. They're going to beat Georgia Tech tomorrow. We know that's going to happen. And they're going to go into the national playoffs. And I have watched them with you a couple of times, and I have been so impressed with the speed that they have on defense. That defense suffocates you. They don't defend anything. They're attacking all the time. They got guys all over the field that can run like crazy. But is the offense good enough to win at the elite level to be a national?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying, Jeff. That's the only. Okay, I agree with that. The one thing I said, the only thing that's going to keep Georgia from winning it is Georgia, and it might be. And I love Kirby Smart, but Kirby, I want him to Kirby his emotions a little bit. Like he's a little over passionate for me. I like the guys that that the Belichicks. I'm more like that kind of guy. You know, he's got everyone. Anyway, the guy's a very emotional guy. I like him. I love Kirby Smart. He's been great for Georgia. And he's a great recruiter, and that's what you have to have. You have to have great athletes there and know how to use the athletes that you have. And they've been doing that. Doesn't seem like they miss a beat if somebody gets injured. They've got they got some real good leadership. Both those guys are at the quarterback position are supporting each other. There's no controversy. Nobody's threatening to go to another university because they're not playing. I like it. I like their situation. I like their chances. I think their biggest. They're gonna come up against somebody tough before they get to that playoff though, and that's in the SEC championship.
Well, Benny, you talk about recruiting, and obviously Georgia recruits extremely well in the state of Georgia, which is a hotbed for college football players. I mean, just the city of Atlanta produces more Division I players, I think, than any other major city in the country.
It's gone that way, yes.
But what's interesting, fascinating to me when we watched them play, the young tight end that they had, and I asked, I said, Ben, where's that kid from? And I was expecting you were going to say Warner Robins or someplace in Georgia. He's a California kid playing at the University of Georgia.
They've done really well out of well, they've got these, like I said, Jeff, this game now has evolved. It's nothing like when I played, right? It's nothing like when I played. Nobody is running dominantly. I mean, there are good teams that are running their 100 and some, but it's balanced with a passing attack. That's what are making teams really good. And the guys up front are it's the guys in the trenches who can get pressure, who can protect the quarterback. I
think that's one of the things that has never changed about football. You got to be able to win up front, and even though the game, as you say, has changed, the passing game is much more important, all of it. But you still have to be able to block folks, and you have to be able to tackle. And until I check out of football, I'm going to continuously say that those are the things that matter most. Hey, my man, I've had an awesome time with you, Jeff, chopping it up, and you got to promise me you'll come back again
Jeff, you put the invite out. I'm there, and I'll get this video thing all hooked up. Man, I got all dressed up for this thing, and all I see is my initials up there, BZ.
Well, I tell you what, we'll
it's not even BZ now, right? It's BZ. Even spelling it, you have to pronounce it. Not only do you have to say it, you gotta spell it differently. We got Z's up here, right?
Oh,
I gotta go. I gotta check out. I gotta go catch a few Z's before I. All right.
Well, take care, Benny. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and we'll have you on again when the playoffs start.
Thank you.
Aloha, man.
But hey, let's go get him today. Beat the Alouettes' ass, right?
You got it, buddy.
Alouettes' tail this weekend. 1 o'clock.
You got it, buddy. All right. I'm going to tell you something. That is one funny dude and a great guy. And Mike, let me just tell you something. Every night I go, because I'm staying with Benny right now, right? And every night I go home and we sit, if there's a football game on, we'll sit and watch that football game. And then the stories come. And I'm going to tell you something. One of these, when the college football playoffs start, we'll get Ben on there, and I'm just going to tell you, we'll get into some of the old stories from those Georgia days. About one time, when the offensive lineman went out and stole a pig from a farmer, and then they had a barbecue the next day, and everybody was wondering where they got the pig from. It's priceless stuff.
I feel bad we couldn't get a camera on though, Jeff. I feel bad, man. I can see you're still here. Sorry, man. Sorry, I don't know.
We'll get him on. Ben, Owen Thomas says Ben Zambiazzi is a legend, quality Benner. That's awesome because now Owen hails from Wales and he knows about Ben Zambiazzi, so that's cool. Fred Flunk says, don't forget my question, Coach. I'm worried about the direction Dallas are heading in. Is the defense being too aggressive? That was a good take you had this morning, Fred. My thing is I don't think they're being too aggressive. I think they're sometimes out of position because they got some young guys playing that are learning how to play. And, like the corner yesterday had 4 penalties on himself, right? I mean, that's inexcusable. But when the big penalty to me was in the overtime period, they got the Raiders off schedule on the chains, and it's 3rd and I think 12 or 18. And Derek Carr just throws one up because he sees the DB in bad position in the coverage. And, the DB panics when he can't see the ball, never looks for the ball. And he gets a penalty, which gives him a huge first down and allows him to go down and win the game. Penalties are the bane of football, bane of good football. They will drive you nuts. And young players, a lot of times, because they're learning how to play at the professional level, and because the game's officiated different, it takes them a little while to acclimatize, I guess. But no, I don't think the Cowboys. I still, and again, maybe this is me because I've always been slow with the Cowboys because I've seen it too many times where they're overhyped and then they just don't produce, right? But I like this team. I like this Cowboy team. I think Parsons is a fantastic player. Diggs is a great player.
Pollard as well, man, gives him depth. I really like it.
You know what? I'm with you because I have said that for 2 years now. Pollard is the best back in Dallas. He's the best back in Dallas, right?
Yeah.
And when they've got some guys out, nicked up a little bit, but he is the best back. He's the guy that can make big plays for you. And I'm a Dak Prescott fan. I'm going to say that loud and clear. I think Dallas is still a dangerous football team, and they're going to win that division because it's not a very good division. What they've got to do is get home field for the playoffs, and I think that's got to be their thought process as they go forward and clean up the penalties.
I've got a new thing, Jeff. Okay, so there's Fred saying Fleetwood calls on players. I've got 3 or 4 minutes, Jeff, right before I have to bounce. It's a big night in Ireland tonight.
What's up tonight?
All right, well,
celebration
there's a thing every year. It's like the most.
What?
No, it's like right. It's like a TV show, but it does like a special every year for Christmas. It's for children, but it's for adults. But it's like a big. I don't know. Don't worry, I'll show you it in person. But it'll be like you'll have like 2 or 3 million people tweeting at 9:30. Look, this is the country that sold 400,000 tickets for Garth Brooks yesterday. So I'm going to leave it there and move on.
Hey, you know what?
Go ahead.
It sounds like the Nebraska Northwestern game is going well too. Hey, I'm telling you, fans, if you enjoy,
it's going to be good, sir.
College football, get to that game. If you enjoy football, get to that game because college football.
Notre Dame 2 years ago.
Yep.
That
well,
game.
man,
I mean,
we're coming to the end of it.
We are.
It was a great episode. It was awesome. Again, we had our usual technical challenges, but we get through that every time with your wizardry, and we still got a lot of football to play this weekend, buddy.
We do, sir. And I was going to say, Jeff, I've done a thing now where instead of people maybe commenting on Twitter, they reply to a tweet. So you've got maybe 20 or 30 notifications on your phone. I'm sure you'll sit there this evening and reply to someone if we haven't got it on the show. Well, I'm going to do one very, very quick thing. You see that word association thing you do with your guests?
Yeah.
I want you to give me one word of an answer. We're going to go here in 60 seconds, right? One word of an answer. Right, here we go. Colts, Bucks, Sunday.
Colts, Bucks?
Who have you got? Oh. Broncos, Chargers.
Chargers. I'm not going to say Broncos.
All right.
Packers, just to take Rams. The Mickey out of you. What?
Packers, Rams.
Ooh. I don't know. It's going to be all come down to Aaron's toe.
Rams.
I'm going to say Rams, but I'm going to say.
Week.
Yep. And then, you know what? You talk about that one. I'm going to use some more words on that. That is a must win for the Rams.
Absolutely. And will Von Miller finally get we can go down a rabbit hole here. All right, hold on. 2 more. Bengals, Steelers.
Bengals.
And a big game to finish it off, Jeff. The Texans and Jets.
Oh, gee. No, nobody. It's a 0-0 tie.
Oh, zeros. What? 75 minutes of football, including overtime there. Right here, very, very. This is the last thing I promise. I know you're going to reply to all these people on Twitter, Jeff. So thanks for your comments, folks. Watch Jeff Sunday 6:00. Be there or be square. BT Sport, ESPN, alongside. Obviously, you're going to watch Sky at the same time. You're on TSN, Jeff, in Canada, and I'm nearly certain you're on after NFL Countdown on ESPN too on Sunday in the States. Best of luck on Sunday. It's a win-win for me. If you win, you're going to the Grey Cup in a couple of weeks or whatever. And if you lose, you'll be in the UK in 2 weeks. So, I'm only joking. I hope you win. You're going to win. And, man, Ben was awesome, and so was Anthony. And I appreciate your time tonight, man.
All right. To all of the tribe, we love you. Thanks for joining us again. Aloha. Spread the word.
Aloha.